Welcome to Gritty is the New Pretty, where resilience meets real talk. I'm your host, Krystle, entrepreneur, leadership coach, change maker, and outdoor enthusiast. Join me as I sit down with powerhouse women leaders, entrepreneurs, and small business owners who share their raw, unfiltered stories of success, struggle, and the grit it takes to make an impact. From navigating change to redefining success, we'll explore what it takes to rise, lead, and thrive. Expect raw conversations to fuel your journey, whether you're breaking down barriers in life or in business. We're redefining success, not by perfection, but by the strength it takes to rise again and again, because in this space, gritty is the new pretty. Hit subscribe and let's get gritty with it. This episode is sponsored by Hey Beck's Creative House, founded by brand strategist Becky LaFranchi, known for building crave-worthy brands that blend story, soul, and strategy. Explore the work at heybecks.com. On today's episode of Gritty is the New Pretty, I'm happy to introduce Dallisa, fifth-generation psychic medium, channeler, astrology enthusiast, life coach, and energy practitioner. She's gained a global audience through her psychic readings, intuitive coaching, and media presence. Welcome, Dallisa.
Thank you so much for having me, Krystle. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about this topic. So why don't you go ahead and start off with telling us about you?
Yeah, gosh, I feel like I'm the accidental psychic medium because I did not plan on doing this as my career, my profession. I was actually a dating coach and matchmaker, and I was planning dating events in different cities around the US. And the universe had other plans. And so 10 years ago, all of my gifts dropped in overnight when I was on a trip to New York. And I'm fifth generation. So my grandmother had the ability to receive premonitions and see spirits, as did her grandmother. So it's been in the family for a really long time. And yeah, I was on a trip, and the last night of my trip, my friend's aunt unexpectedly died, and I was staying at his house, and I didn't know his family, and she came to me while I was sleeping that night, and I could see her, and she was communicating with me through the dream state and said, "I need you to tell my nephew I'm okay. I made it to the other side." And the next morning I went out in the kitchen, told my friend, gave him the message, described what she looked like. He confirmed it. I ended up seeing a photo of her a few days later that he had snapped at her memorial service or funeral. And it was exactly as she had come to me a few nights before. And so that's how it all started. And I just decided to lean into it. And I quit my other company, dissolved it, and then started what, I've been doing now for the last decade.
So were you shocked at all, or were you almost expecting it because of your family generational gift?
I was not planning on doing this. It was nowhere in my orbit. I really thought that I was going to just be an entrepreneur of whatever kind and whatever excited me, because I love owning businesses and starting businesses and crafting a brand and marketing. Like, I love all of that. And so I never thought that I would be, making really big predictions about the world and what's happening and helping people develop their own psychic abilities. So, but when it happened, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, of course, because my family's really open to it. I've always just naturally loved talking about spirituality and predictions, and so I shouldn't be that surprised, but I never thought it would be what it is now. It's really grown substantially from where it started that night in New York to where it is now.
Right. So you have now a global audience. How did you take this gift and create a business and a brand What was that process like? And were you expecting it to grow as fast as it did?
Actually started off talking to clients over the phone. And that was what I would consider my beta test because I knew my gifts were coming in. I can see, which is clairvoyance, hear, which is clairaudience. I feel things in my physical body, which is clairsentience. And so all of those gifts were being experienced by me on a very regular basis. And so I decided that I had to start testing it out. So I would ask people that I knew, but I didn't know what was happening in their life at that moment to be one of my guinea pigs, I guess you could say. And I would write their name at the top of a piece of paper. I wouldn't have any information about their current life circumstances. And then I would go into meditation and start writing out all of the channeling. And then I would get on the phone with them and say, please don't tell me anything. I want to just share with you what came through and you can give me feedback,
Mm-hmm.
is it accurate? And so that's actually where it started. And people would say, I have no idea how you know that about me. I've never told anybody. Like, okay, well, it's confidential. It's okay. Um, and so I noticed pretty quickly that the word was spreading. So then I started charging people to do a phone reading. And then the snowball kept going. And I thought, you know what? I should probably leave where I'm living in Texas. And that's where I was at the time. And I should probably move to where my family is at in Las Vegas. Because if it fails miserably, at least I know I'll have food somewhere and a hot shower and a bed. And it did the opposite. I started working out of a woman's shop, her spiritual crystal shop. And I was doing readings, 20-minute readings for $20. And on some days I would do, 15, 16 of those in one day back to back. And after a while of working out of her shop, my clientele got to be so big that I kept getting psychic messages and downloads that would say something like, you're going to open up your own spot. You're going to open up your own spot. And that's what it ended up transitioning into. Pre-COVID, I created a spiritual center. I had practitioners that were teaching classes and doing sessions out of there. I had a crystal store, and it was a lot of fun until everything with the wheels falling off in 2020 happened, which I actually started predicting in 2019, before we got into 2020. And I kept telling everybody around me, we're going to have issues with the food supply, and there's something with our health. I feel like it's going to be important to have things that support our health while we're at home. And everything about our life is going to change. And I kept feeling all of these messages over and over again. And then, of course, we see what happens in early part of 2020. So I ended up not only having to close down the spiritual center, but I opened up my own 90-minute psychic stage show. And so I shut that down as well because all entertainment in Las Vegas was closed. But that was fun. I used to do readings from audience members that would come up on stage, and I would read them live. And every show was a different experience. And so in Las Vegas, I had 4 live shows a week that I was doing. And so it all was really amazing and such a great experience to have those in-person touch points. But after everything had to close, I took everything virtual. And so now the magic of that is there's people all over the world that are taking classes and coming together and talking about astrology or spirituality. And so it's been really fun to dissolve any of those walls that maybe were set up just by proximity. And now, I can connect with people that live everywhere. So that's how it grew from, not charging and testing it out into what it is today, which I think last count, there's 235,000 social media followers between Instagram and Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a journey.
Why do you think people are so drawn to it?
I think there's a lot of chaos in the world, right? We can turn on the news or look at our phone and we see headlines that are all doom and gloom. And so I think people are looking for more. I think they're asking bigger
Mhm.
questions about, who am I? Why am I alive? What the heck is this earth place? Um, and so they're starting to dig deeper into their own purpose, because I believe through my experience doing this work that our soul decided to incarnate right here, right now, to go through what we're going through because of the opportunities it gave our soul for growth and evolution. I often refer to this place as Earth School. It's one of the most advanced classrooms we can be in. So I think that's why more people are looking for it and asking questions about themselves, and even looking at their astrology chart and getting curious about the energy they were born with. And I think astrology will be one of those keys, those tools that people will be able to have access to and learn more about, to help them understand their greater purpose, and not necessarily what that means for their career, but really what drives their passion and their fuel, and what gets them excited about living life.
Mhm. Because they end up being related ultimately, right? Like it may not be just about the intricacies of your career, but if you are not fulfilled or at least have a purpose in your life, it does impact other aspects like your career, your relationships, everything else about you. I know on my personal journey, it wasn't until I really went through tragedy that I felt a sense of purpose coming out of that. And that sense of purpose really drove me to want to level up and want to get more and more and reach out more with community and connect more and create things, and really make a difference in the area that I was embedded in, and then also improve myself through some of these hard lessons. But I felt like it really did. I've been through a lot of difficult things in my life, but um, losing my friend was like the hardest thing I'd ever gone through, and it was a really dark time for quite a while. But once I kind of snapped, like it clicked, and I was like, I'm going to do something about this, and I'm going to make this into a good thing or do the best that I can. And I started, finding purpose in all sorts of things and setting goals and accomplishing things I never thought. So I do think that they end up relating because ultimately my career, I began to level up. Now, it didn't just happen without effort. I had to put in effort, but I had purpose behind it. And so that's what drove me.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, I think it's important
Yeah.
for us to love what we do. But I also think we're headed into a time where we aren't going to be so tied to our job title as a way of
Mhm.
measuring success. And I think artificial intelligence, technology, we are headed into a time where jobs are going to change and what people do for a living is going to change. So I think there's going to be a lot of questions around my value, my worth, and how we define that. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting period of time that we're in now, and that we're moving through, because a lot of dismantling is happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the job title, I completely agree because it's easy to embed your identity into a title or even a skill or a craft, whatever it is, right? And then if the universe decides to take that away from you, your identity is then gone. Or like let's say like firefighting, right? Like firefighters become really embedded in their identity as a firefighter. If they get injured and they can't fight fires anymore, their whole identity is gone. Or any, like any example of a career. And I've had that happen to me with my soccer career, as well. And multiple times I had to be like, who am I without this identity? And really, you have to ensure that your identity is not embedded in a title, but it's rooted in your values, in your purpose, and really how you decide to kind of walk through life. Like you said, they're not going to be as important, as you move forward. And I know for me, leaving my career to get another career that would be more supportive of my journey as a mom, that was a big big title I had to kind of give up and walk away from. 12 years of a substantial career. And I'm so much happier now in my job and, what I do. And then also just being able to have purpose and spending time with my kids more and making more use of my time for other things like this podcast and, engaging with others in the community. So I really love that piece of advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think some people feel afraid to take the first step in whatever their journey, whatever they want their journey to be. They might think, well, I don't want
Hmm.
to start the company because what if it fails? What if it works?
Right.
What if it's successful? People get hung up on a lot of roadblocks. So I think it's always important to find tools and outlets for inspiration, like this podcast, or reading
Hmm.
different books that help motivate you. Get a playlist going on your phone that you can listen to in the morning that helps to get you jazzed up for the day. There's
Yep.
always going to be uncertainty, always. And we are never in control. Control is an illusion. And so the more that you can get on board with thinking of it as an adventure or a journey or getting curious as to what could happen, then I think you'll feel better about taking that next step into whatever dream it is that you have, because anything is possible. And if you're willing to try and put your curiosity out there, I often find that the universe over delivers and gives us much more than we ever asked for if we just try and we show up and we know that we're worthy of having the dream.
Right. Right. So I have a question. From my perspective and my journey, I feel like I struggled trusting my intuition. And it took some time, and really one of my bosses continuously telling me, trust your intuition is right, because there were multiple examples that would come up where I'd be in her office and I'm like, see, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. I knew it. And she's like, you were right. Your instincts are good. You need to start trusting them. And so I've gotten a lot better at that, but I'm curious about your perspective on how women utilize intuition or can utilize intuition, and how they might, interrelate with some of your gifts and the work that you do.
I think everybody has the ability to lean into their intuition. Mine is probably amplified 10, 20, 100 times what normally is, just because I think of my DNA and the family I was born into. So I naturally can just go into that state of being a lot faster and a lot deeper. But I also have students that I've taught over the years where they started off just wanting to be able to tune into their intuition. And then they surprise the heck out of themselves because they realize, like, wow, I am getting information, and wow, this is real and it is happening. I think some people hold themselves back from developing their intuition because they're afraid of what other people might think. If you're in the workplace,
Mhm.
let's say, and you're talking about your intuition or you're feeling like something's off, I think before, people at the workplace may have shunned it or looked down on it. But I think now, and especially as we move into the future, people are going to be much more open to talking about intuition and things that we can't necessarily see with our own eyes, and how important our feelings are as a barometer of what's actually going on. I find that doing meditations is probably the lowest hanging fruit. And I get a lot of pushback about that because I hear busy people and women all the time say, I don't have time for that. Like, I can't even find time to do XYZ that I need to do. So I think you'd probably want to get centered first within yourself and really understand your why. Like, why do you want to strengthen your intuition? Because if you get clear as to why you want to have a better gift, a stronger gift, you're probably more willing to stick with different things that you can do that amplify it. Even a 5-minute meditation every day actually does help it get stronger. Journaling out the things that are in your mind, or just starting with blank pages, and writing every morning, and either with a timer or telling yourself that you have to fill out, 2 or 3 blank pages and write until those are filled each day. But just putting them out on paper so they're not clogging up your energy field, that will help to clear the pathway. Drinking a lot of water can be helpful because a lot of people don't drink enough. Eating healthier foods like either organic or fruits, vegetables that are like high vibrational foods can also help you to increase your intuition, because basically your body is the filter for your intuition. And so however you're taking care of yourself and your body is the filter that the intuitive information is going to come through. So think of you as that vessel for information, and just be a little bit more mindful about how you're treating your mind and your body and your spiritual practice. And you'll naturally start to notice, not only is your intuition getting stronger, but you're probably also getting more synchronicities from the universe. Like you're at the right place at the right time. You meet the person that you needed to meet in order to get this project finished. You see repetitive numbers that keep coming into your pathway, 11 being one of the most popular ones, or 22 or 333. Those are all frequencies. And so when you start seeing repetitive numbers even, or some other kind of sign repetitively, that's usually a sign that you've amplified your frequency, your own vibration that you carry, and that you are getting more downloads from the universe.
What do the numbers mean? Do they have significance when you see them and you need to be looking out for them?
I'll give you an example. 11 is probably the one I get reported to from so many people that keep seeing 11s. They might see it as 1-1 or a triple one, so 111, or 4 ones. They all pretty much mean the same thing in my experience. Typically, the 11 is an angel, like an angel frequency saying that they're around you, or if you have a departed loved one that you are missing or thinking about and you keep getting the 11s, it's usually a sign that they're around you. I also like to think of the 11s as a doorway. So you've got the 1 and the 1, for example. So if you are somebody that out there that's seeing the number 11, when you see that number, either on your phone or at the gas station pump, start to think about the 11s as a doorway, like the frame of a door. And so when you see that 11, you can think to yourself, like, what is it that I want to manifest in this moment? And set that intention of that dream, that wish, that desire. And when you're seeing that 11, it helps to magnify and attract that dream into you, because the presence of the 11 and that moment that you're taking to get clear about what it is that you want to walk through the doorway on, like what is it that you want to go and claim in your life? So you can start to see these 11s as like mini portals of manifestation.
I'll have to keep a lookout. I see lots of numbers. I see lots of 4s. And I always kind of get excited about it. But my last question, or not my last question, but one of the questions that I have is, you have this gift. How do you use this gift to coach women or coach business owners to be successful? How do they relate?
Great question. I can see through layers of energy, and I just naturally love business. So one of the most enjoyable things for me over the last decade has been working with women and business owners where, we can start a session or a conversation about, okay, well, what's going on, right? And then as soon as they start talking, I start getting my psychic downloads about what's really going on underneath the surface. I've done so many business sessions over the years where I'll be working with a client and maybe all they say is, I want to start a business, but I don't know what kind of business I should start. It's like the runway, and all of this information starts coming in about what kind of business their guides, angels, departed loved ones are suggesting that they start, what they'd be successful at. I've had spirit download information about what should be on the website and different marketing ideas that they should be implementing in their business to make it more successful. So it's been a hoot because I never know going into it, like what the heck's going to happen when I'm talking or working with a client. So we're both like jazzed by the end of it because we're all so excited that, the business has basically been either designed or redesigned. So it's been a lot of fun using the gifts in that way, because I love seeing women, I love seeing people that have a business that they're proud of. And I think it just gives them so much joy. And successful business owners, a lot of them that I see, they go back into their local community. They go and they give back, and they help different charities, or they start different projects or initiatives. So I think people owning businesses can be a really, really great thing. So I love helping people figure out what that mission and vision is and how to actually implement it. So that's been fun.
Yes. So, are you getting any downloads from me or for me?
Ooh, I can let me pull a couple tarot cards. I've got my cards out. Let's see what comes up. Let me get into my channeling vibration. Crystal. Spirit, can you please bring in a message for Crystal? You know what's interesting? As soon as I start going into your energy, because it looks like a daydream that plays out in front of me is how my line of vision works. And the first thing they take me into is you being, I'm going to call it the mountains. Um, but it feels like a retreat of some kind. So if you get an invitation or you feel called to plan some kind of retreat that's like a wellness or um, for busy women, there's like that element coming in for like an in-person retreat. But I get the sense with this mountain symbolism that nature would be a component of it. And so working with nature, not that it has to go like completely off on one side of the equation of, okay, we're going to go like play in the dirt, or we're going to go like make an altar in the trees. Like it doesn't have to go that far, but I just feel like nature is going to be an important element of this group. And it feels like a small group of women, but this feels like a retreat that you're putting together. And so let's see what cards pop out. I'm going to pull just a couple. Yep. So the retreat is backed up with the Hermit card, and the Hermit card is the sage. It's this energy of, I have so much information that I've gathered in my lifetime that I am going to go within and I'm going to craft this information and how I want to come back out of it and present it to the world. So if it means that you need a little bit of a timeout first and develop it, but I do think you're going to end up developing a retreat that helps women, their spirit saying in my ear, ferociously step into who they were meant to be. Okay. And you have two other cards. I pulled three in total. The other two are about activation and about doing it. That is the Ace of Swords. And that is like, let's get it done. And the sword is for mental, like thought and logic. So putting that plan together. And then the other card is the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles, I think there's going to be a theme around what you end up producing and putting together with this retreat, something about self-value, because the pentacles represent value and worth. And it makes sense that, Spirit was saying it's helping people embody who they were born to be, who they are. And maybe they just have to, brush the dust off a little bit and get back to what really gets them going in life.
I feel like that really aligns even with the title of the podcast. Gritty is the new pretty. And that's why, when I came up with it, I was like, wow, this is catchy, but it is so meaningful to me. I feel like in many ways, based off my own journey. And like I said before, some of the things I was able to accomplish, even though I had no idea what I was doing or no experience. I just kind of put that intention out there and that goal, and I went for it. And now I want to work on helping women really refine that grit to where it's not you're not operating at the grittiest point, which is kind of painful, right? Like you don't want to be in that point 100% of the time, but you need to know when to activate it and how to use it with clarity, so that way you don't burn yourself out, and hopefully you can use it as a little bit of a turbo boost or a superpower when the time comes for you to come out on top. That's what I really want to do as I move forward with Grit City Women and Gritty is the New
I
Pretty.
love it. Yeah, it's just going to keep rising. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. That's so awesome to get a little insight into what you do and be able to share it with our audience and our listeners. So, what is your biggest piece of advice for Grit City Women?
My biggest piece of advice is to relax, because
Mm.
I think we try to be so many things to so many people. And over the years, and I have chills coming up my legs as I say this, so I know it's confirmation from spirit that we're supposed to mention this. There's been so many people that have come to me over the years that have said, I'm just burnt out. I'm overwhelmed. I'm trying to do all of the things and I don't even know who I am anymore. And part of the work I do is around the victim triangle or the drama triangle. And one of the sides of the triangle is the energy, the person who is the rescuer, the fixer. And I think there's so many people in the world right now, and I think a lot of your listeners that may raise their hand or maybe nodding their heads right now going, yeah, I put that person above myself. I put that person above myself. I've lost part of my voice. And so I think the message from spirit that I feel compelled to say is relax and get into a space whenever you can, even if it's 15 minutes a week, if that's all you can find. But find that time to actually go back within yourself and ask yourself, like, who am I? What is it that I want out of this lifetime? What do I want my legacy to be after I'm gone? And that takes space that invites in a vibration of relaxation. And so maybe it's a journal and a pen and a little bath caddy, and take, your baths and sit there 15 minutes a week and take a hot bath, put some Epsom salt or pink Himalayan salt in there, and allow yourself to relax and find your voice again.
I love that. I love that. Do you have an event coming up here? I believe we talked last time and you said you might have had one coming up in Kent. Is that accurate?
So right now, I'm assuming any moment now, there's going to be a knock in my email inbox about Halloween season. Because,
Okay.
yeah, because I perform over at Muckleshoot Casino Resort in Auburn. I've loved working at Courthouse Square in Tacoma. And so I'm keeping the door open, and I'll probably be starting those conversations real soon.
Okay, great. And how can our listeners connect with you, or where can they find you?
My website is spiritandspark.com, spiritandspark.com, all spelled out. You can go on there and find links to my social media accounts. I do a prediction and astrology live stream on YouTube on Tuesdays, and a lot of other content on Facebook and Instagram. So come join the conversation. I'd love to have you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really fun and such a pleasure.
Thank you, Krystle. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Born from the spirit of Grit City Women, Gritty is the New Pretty carries the torch, amplifying the voices, stories, and power of women who lead with resilience, purpose, and unapologetic grit. To support Gritty is the New Pretty, follow us on Instagram at Grit City Women or shop our online store at gritcitywomen.com.